Heat 6 for the Senior X30s, and that is Group A and C that will race together. And that's going to be a particularly interesting one, as we've got a race winner on the front row of the grid and a second chance for the man on the second row of the grid. Now, those who were watching earlier on or listening earlier on will remember that we lost Xavier Hansheim on the formation lap when he was starting from third position on the grid, as he is again now, because his wheel fell off at the final chicane on the formation lap before they were forming up for the grid, and his race was basically in tatters from that point onwards. He did eventually rejoin, only to be lapped because he rejoined just as the leaders were coming around on the exit of the pit lane. So poor Xavier Hansheim had a miserable race, but now he has another opportunity, restarting from third position. So we'll see how well the Belgian does. It's going to be an interesting one as they battle away for position, but Xavier Hansheim will be on the second row of the grid, in there behind Joe Turney and Rens van Pelt, with the super Finn, the flying Finn, Levi Lintucanto will be there on the second row of the grid once again, with the British contingent having to play a little bit of a catch-up behind Joe Turney on this one, because there are a few more, but they're in the mix, as it were. Because we have Ruben Moya and Hans Morin on the third row of the grid, Carlos Saval and Sam White on row 4, and Alejandro Lajoslup and Juan Carlos Hernandez Ruiz rounding out the top 10. So it's an interesting one, as we've got plenty of good battles to come, but still lots of good driving on the horizon. And Joe Turney, who is already a heat winner, would very much like to do it again. The wind has definitely picked up in the last sort of 20 minutes or so, and the dark clouds are coming over again. 10% chance of rain, I was told. It's starting to look a little bit more like 20% at the moment. I'm hoping it doesn't get any more than that, actually. I don't think any of us want any rain. It wasn't predicted to be very well expected earlier on. I'm just hoping that those are dark clouds that will make the sky look a bit dull rather than turn into a rain shower. Although 10% is still better than no chance at all. So we'll just have to see how the weather holds out. Hopefully it will not rain over the course of the day. The wind is very high though, and that of course is going to make for very cold conditions over the course of the next few minutes. So the drivers are aware that they've obviously got to be quite vigilant about how they go about this race, and it could be changeable through the course of the race. Now, they're all on slick tyres, of course, because there is no other option. If it's a dry race, then slick tyres are obligatory. However, if it starts raining, then that's when we'll get to see the really good racing drivers coping with slicks on wet surface. And anybody who's very good at their indoor racing will definitely be of an advantage at that point, or anybody who's ever gone arrive and drive on arrive and drive karts with slick tyres in the pouring wet will obviously do very well. And that's why professional racing drivers still do that from time to time, because it's a skill you need when you least expect it. So we now have an opportunity to talk through the grid as the mechanics are being cleared. So let's go through the grid. Once again, 17 rows of drivers to talk about in qualifying heat A to C. Joe Turney on the front row of the grid for Great Britain alongside Rens van Pelt of Belgium. Xavier Hansheim, another Belgian with another chance. And Levi Lintucanto of Finland on the second row with him. Spain's Ruben Moya alongside Hans Morin of Sweden. And then Carlos Saval on row 4 alongside Sam White. Then it's an all-Spanish fifth row. Alejandro Lajoslup along with Juan Carlos Hernandez Ruiz. Philip Vava is on row 6 alongside the Irishman Ross Hayes. Morgan Porter on row 7 along with Daniel Mathia. Vincent Rouard of France is in row 8 with Saul Robinson. Gus Lawrence and Philip Rawson making an all-British row 9. And row 10 is the Pole Sylvester Alexievas and the Belgian Evan Becerra. Tony Harainen of Finland is on row 11 alongside Kamil Dunic of Poland. Then we have Reese Ushijima, the American-Japanese, and the Dutchman Joey van Splunteren, hoping for better luck this time. 13th row is Alejandro Martinez and Jack Alev of Switzerland. Toisko Avaska of Finland is alongside the Swede Axel Bengtsson. Then Tyler Reid of Great Britain alongside DJ Liveris of Greece. Thomas Ward and Manel Golofra. Hinsum Tang and Stuart Middleton. And then Teddy Williams in there as well. So it's Tsehum Tang of Hong Kong with the two Brits, Stuart Middleton and Teddy Williams, towards the back. Both of those guys will be wanting to push a little bit further forward, but it is going to be intense to see who does what and gets where first. So the drivers are all getting themselves prepared for what promises to be another spectacular encounter. We've got some truly amazing racing still to come here, of course. It's not done and dusted, as we've got so many incredible races still to talk about. I should check out what's going on the stream. Emma Barrett says, morning, loving the live stream. Give a huge shout out to Jensen Brown, JB. He needs a bit of luck behind him. He had a reasonable heat that time, to be fair, but you're absolutely right. A little bit more good luck would be good. He is one of those drivers who, if you broke their car in half, it would read bad luck through it like Blackpool Rocks. So hopefully it's going to go a bit better. John Cole writes, Stu Middleton, what a going on? Well, I know what you mean, actually. It's not normal for Stuart Middleton to be so far back, but that means that he can just charge his way through the field. So we will keep an eye on it. And we've also got Dermot Sorin congratulating Philip Rawson. A great race for Philip Rawson on the last one. It was a good drive, actually, to be fair. So good stuff. We'll keep on keeping your comments coming in, though, because we'll keep talking about them. If you're listening via the Telemundi Media live stream on YouTube or listening via Downforce UK if you're in the car, we are getting going. So the X30 seniors once again leave the grid, and it's going to be an interesting one with Joe Turney and Rens van Pelt on the front row of the grid. Both of these guys have the potential to win the whole thing, but they're going to have to work incredibly hard to get there. So there is your grid once again with the drivers in position. Turney and Van Pelt, Hansheim and Lintucanto, Moya and Morin, Saval and White, Lajersloop and Hernandez Rios, Vava and Hayes, Porter and Mathia, Ruar and Robinson, Lawrence and Rawson, Alexievas and Pachera, Herainen and Donic, Ushijima and Van Splunteren, Martinez and Aleph, Ovaska and Bengtson, Reed and Liveris, Ward and Gallofrey, Tsang and Middleton, and then Teddy Williams is at the back of the mix as well. So a lap and a half or so at full speed, and then the drivers will form up on the back straight as they have done so far. 6 different Senior X30 race of the weekend. Will we see a 6th different winner? So far, we've had the Irishman Sam McDonnell and 4 Brits over the course of the day, namely Dean McDonald, Clayton Ravenscroft, Joe Turney, and most recently, Mark Kimber. So how is it going to play out for the Senior X30's 6th race of the day? That final chicane is definitely going to be an interesting one through the course of the meeting. We may see a few choice overtakes as the meeting plays out, but that run to the first corner is always a really exciting one. As the drivers get themselves up to speed, we've seen some very tasty battles through the course of the race. So Turney and Van Pelt will take up residence on the front row of the grid. They now slow up as they come around that long flowing right-hander that goes on and on forever. Very akin to Shanghai in China, actually, on the Formula One circuit. It just goes on and on forever, that corner, and you have to time it right when you get up to speed and hit the throttle on the back straight as the 2 rows now start to form. Turney and Van Pelt, Hansheim and Lintucanto, Moya and Morin, Saval and White and Lajersloop and Hernandez Ruiz in the top 10, with plenty more drivers outside the top 10 trying to move their way forward. So let's go racing for the 6th time in the Senior X30s today. It should be an interesting one. We'll keep an eye on who goes where out of the chicane. So it is Turney on the left, Van Pelt on the right. Let's get a good start. This is a good one for Turney, and Hansheim's got a good one too into 2nd place. Ruben Moya might be able to slot into 3rd position by the first corner, and he has done. So it is Turney, Hansheim and Moya through the first corner. Very nicely done. Van Pelt has slotted into 4th position, I do believe. And as we head to turn 3, is there going to be some shenanigans? Well, for a few drivers, there might be. Oh, well, we've only had one car go over the chicane on the curb. But for a lot of drivers, this is one of their last chances to break into the finals. So they've got to do the very best they can to work their way through the field. It's going to be a tough one for a lot of them, but out in front, Joe Turney, no problems at the moment. Xavier Hansheim and Ruben Moya battling away, and that's Carlos Saval up to 4th position on the inside of Rens van Pelt. So a really good battle there as Carlos Saval gets himself into a strong position. He was on the inside line. That's how he's able to gain the advantage. So Rens van Pelt has dropped to 5th position from the front row. That's how important it is to be on the odd side of the grid. But Joe Turney, a quick check over his shoulder, and Xavier Hansheim is too far back to be a threat right now. Ruben Moya, Carlos Saval, Van Pelt, Vava, Lintucanto, Lajersloop, Morin, Porter, White, Donic, Rawson and Lawrence. But it's all going beautifully for Joe Turney out in front, looking to make it 2 wins over the course of the day. Up and over the curbs they come once more. Joe Turney, very confident, very commanding out in front. He's only been beaten once today, and that was by Dean McDonald in the first heat of the day. Something has been flicked up. I'm hoping that's just a bit of rubber off the offline. As Ruben Moyer makes the dive on the inside there, makes the move on Xavier Hansheim, and Ruben Moyer up to second place. So Hansheim has to be content with the fact that he's currently running in third place, not second. But that has given Joe Turney, look at that, daylight robbery this race could end up being for Joe Turney out in front as he goes into the chicane. Right, left, right. These four are now going to have to work together to break down that gap to Joe Turney. So it's up to them all. Hansheim. Sixth place now belongs to Levi Lintocanto, whose bumper isn't going to flail around behind him like it did in the previous heat. Seventh place, that is Philippe Vava ahead of Alejandro Lahazloop. Morgan Porter is now up to ninth, and Kamil Donic is up to 10th place. So Kamil doing a good job as he fights his way further forward. And the battle for 11th is intensifying. Up to 11th now comes Hans Morin. So Morin has not had the greatest of starts, being on the grid for him. Going to cooler conditions make things a little bit more intense as drivers have got a second guess for those clouds overhead and wonder, are we going to get rain? It doesn't happen too often, but it could well throw a bit of a spanner in the works to a few of the drivers. However, the only compromise for that is that Joe Turney will be the first one to get to each corner in the wet conditions, so it'll be up to him how he dictates the rest of the race flowing. But Turney leads the way. Second, Hansheim, Saval and Van Pelt in giving chase. Lintocanto is in sixth place in front of Philippe Vava. Then Lahazloop, Porter, Donic, Hernandez Ruiz, Morin, Lawrence, White, Mathia and Philip Rawson. Good battles all the way through this field, but for second position it's four karts back as we've got Moyer, Hansheim, Saval and Van Pelt trying to get close enough to Joe Turney to challenge. But Joe Turney will not be defeated. I tell you what, Senior X30 is a British and Irish rout at the moment, with only British and Irish drivers winning. The only Irish winner is Sam McDonnell, but all the others have been Brits. And Joe Turney is looking to make it a second win for him to keep the ball rolling. So here we go. Right, left, right out of the final corners of the Cartodromo Lucas Guerrero. And look at how much of a gap Ruben Moyer has held thanks to the third place man, Carlos Saval, getting into P3. That has held up Xavier Hansheim. These guys have got the nerve to make an overtaking move on someone and then signal to the guy behind, come on, let's push forward. It's like, you've just overtaken me. You've just caused part of the problem. Always the way. You can never beat these kart racers. They're always going to use the same tricks and the same tactics all the way, make an overtake, and then ask for help. To be perfectly honest, if you ask me, it's like punching someone in the gut when they've already got a broken foot. But anyway, that's the way that kart races work. Up on the inside, that's a beautiful move from Rens Van Pelt. Shoves Xavier Hansheim down to fifth position. And now he's going to have to slot back into position and do more hard work to get himself up a further position. We're about to reach the halfway point, and for Joe Turney, it couldn't come sooner, the checkered flag. He's got a nice gap. It's about 0.8 of a second on the last lap. It could be about as much of a second as they come through this time. I think it is just over a second, in fact. Yes, it is. 1.083 for Joe Turney, who is loving life at the front of this race. Ruben Moyer in second. Third is Carlos Saval. Fourth is Rens Van Pelt. Fifth is Xavier Hansheim. And as a result of that little shuffle, guess who's coming up behind you, boys? It's Philippe Vava. The Spaniard is now getting himself into the mix here in sixth position, my apologies. Then it's Levi Lintocanto, Alejandro Lahazloop, Morgan Porter, Kamil Donic, Juan Carlos Hernandez Ruiz. Then it's Sam White from Morin, Lawrence, Mathia, Van Splunteren, Philip Rawson in 17th from Ruar, Alexievas. Evan Becerra rounds out the top 20 for the Belgian contingent. Then it's Benson, Alif, Galofre, Reed, Heronen, Martinez, Liveris, Ovasca. Stuart Middleton is 29th from Williams, Ushijima, Ward and Sang. We have not had a start from Saul Robinson or Ross Hayes, unfortunately. So out in front, it is Joe Turney. Carlos Saval is getting a bit of a shove, almost literally from Rens Van Pelt, who dives at the inside to try and take third position. There's not a lot of cooperation from Carlos Saval, and that holds them both up. But Rens Van Pelt is into third place. He is determined he will get that third position. And with 4 laps to go, Joe Turney's lead is 1.2 seconds. And you have to say that at this stage of the race, at this stage of the day, he's not going to lose this race unless something catastrophic happens. But Joe Turney is large and in charge at the front of this race right now. Looking good. Into the left. Sweeping round to the right. Slow in, fast out. patient on the throttle through this long sweeping right. You've got to get it right on the exit. Then you power down the back straight. And how on earth have these guys let him get that far ahead? Ruben Moya just cannot seem to get close to him. Joe Turney is turning this heat into an absolute rout. Ruben Moya, however, second position, is getting a challenge from Rens van Pelt. Carlos Saval is not out of it yet. Vava is now up into fifth position. Sixth place, Xavier Hansheim, the Belgian. Seventh is Levi Lintecanto from La Hazdoup. Porter and Kamil Donic in 10th position for Poland. Now, Morgan Porter trying to get himself further up the road. Oh, a little bit too much curb there for Porter, to be fair. Joe Turney still commands the race. Second place, though, it's looking okay for Ruben Moya for the moment, although Carlos Saval has just gone a personal best, a purple first sector, in fact. So he is the fastest in the first sector now, Carlos Saval. Ruben Moya a little bit sluggish, and this is where Rens van Pelt could get him down the back straight. I think the race is now on for second position. I think they've realised Joe Turney is running away from Ruben Moya. Rens van Pelt is getting on with it. Come on, Luke, come and get on with it. Down into the chicane. And Ruben Moya is causing a bit of a frustration for Rens van Pelt. And Ruben Moya signals to Rens van Pelt, come on, help me, get him. And Rens is like, are you mad? We're already not going to win this. So Rens van Pelt just darts up the inside, says, I'll have second, thank you. I can't win now, thanks to you. You've lost too much time to Joe Turney, so I'm just going to take second place. So the Belgian gets through. Ruben Moya is down to third position. Well, we're on the last lap now. The checkered flag is being prepared, and Joe Turney is a long way out in front. Oh, my apologies. We've got 2 laps to go, I think, in this one, because we're on lap 9 of 10. But Joe Turney out in front, doing a grand job, running very well indeed, and looking good for it. He runs out in first position. Down the back straight, Rens van Pelt in second from Ruben Moya. Carlos Saval is in P4. Out of the chicane, Joe Turney is going to come through. One more time of asking. Into the final lap we go. And Joe Turney has a lead now of 1.1. Rens van Pelt actually set the fastest lap of the race in that last lap in second place. Ruben Moya is giving chase. Joe Turney can just ease off in the last lap. He doesn't have to worry too much about his pace. He just needs to keep it pointing in a straight line, and he's got this race won. Further back, there's quite a lot of challenging and some good battles. There's about 4 or 5 of them going through turn 1 together at the moment, as they all challenge for position. For the victory, it's all done and dusted. Joe Turney looks like he's got this one nailed to the mast. Rens van Pelt, however, has got a real mission on his hands for second place, because Ruben Moya and Carlos Saval are chasing him down. And this one could go right the way down to the finish line between the second place drivers. Although Rens van Pelt's got a good exit out of the long flowing right-hander. And I think that will pretty much sort it out. But out in front, it's no problem at all for Joe Turney, who for the second time comes out of the final chicane, takes the checkered flag and wins the Senior X30 heat. An absolute canter. Rens van Pelt in second, Ruben Moya is third from Carlos Saval, Philip Vava, Levi Lintecanto, Alejandro La Hazdoup, Xavier Hansheim slipping in the end to 8th place. Kamil Donic and Morgan Porter round out the top 10 from Sam White, Juan Carlos Hernandez Ruiz, Gus Lawrence, Hans Morin, Joey van Splunteren, Daniel Mathia, Manel Galofre, Axel Bengtsson, Philip Rawson just inside the top 20, ahead of the man in 20th, Sylvester Alexievas. Then it's Tyler Reed, Jack Alef, Tony Harainen, Vincent Roy, Toisko Avaska, Dionysius Nevados, Stuart Middleton in 27th ahead of Teddy Williams in 28th. Then it's Evan Bachera, Reese Ushijima, Alejandro Martinez, Thomas Ward and Sehun Sang.